Oh my gosh, yeah. So they're all gonna go bounty hunting for undocumented people after it's over. They're gonna they're gonna saddle up on some horses and go terrorize the greater Los Angeles area. Pretty crazy stuff. TYT and at Merritt Street are covering the State of the Union together. Merritt Street's founded by Dr. Phil. It's like his media corporation, I guess. And Dr. Phil and I will host a town hall with Democrats and Republicans reacting to Trump's speech in first 45 days. Check it out on the Young Turks. So this is humiliating for Cenk. He basically has to do this with Dr. Phil probably for money. I would imagine that it's because the Young Turks are doing so badly on the books that he has no choice but to collaborate with somebody who's taking even more corporate cash than he is, somebody who's even more awash with unsavory funding. And I don't want anybody to forget, we alluded to it a number of times already. Dr. Phil was literally out just like watching people get arrested with ICE. He was literally volunteering to go on ICE raids and absolutely shocked when he realized that they were actual people that were being arrested. And he's like, wow, that guy watched my show. He knew who I was. And it's like, yeah, dude, these are regular ass people in America that you are ruining the lives of.
I mean, to be
for
fair,
no
I think,
reason.
To be fair, I think the ICE raid he was on, it was like arresting some actual hardcore criminal. It wasn't just some like normal average Joe. But I still get your point.
I mean, yeah, that time maybe one of the people that were raided.
That's what I meant. Just on that one raid that he was on, it was like some like mass rapist, criminal guy. But still, I totally see your point. He's a complete villain. He's allowed his popularity and his image to be used by the Trump administration to manufacture consent for the mass deportations, 100%. But honestly, Zach, I think that this isn't. I mean, it is humiliating for Cenk, but it's almost even more humiliating for Dr. Phil. Why is Dr. Phil is a way bigger celebrity than Cenk Uygur? He's, I would assume, way more relevant to your average person. I don't really know what this weird kind of random like love affair between these two guys is. It seems bizarre though from Dr. Phil's perspective to want to collaborate with Cenk so much. Like I would understand if he was going on, like PBD or something, but I don't know, Cenk, TYT, it seems pretty irrelevant, kind of a weird ideological mix, which I guess is the point here. They want someone on the right and someone on the left to do this town hall. So I understand the point of it, but I just don't understand why Cenk and Dr. Phil keep collaborating. This seems like the fourth or fifth time now within the last year.
Yeah, my best guess is that behind the scenes, Dr. Phil is really horny for bipartisanship. And so the best guy that he could think to do a crossover collaboration with would be Cenk Uygur, somebody who's going to validate a lot of right-wing beliefs, somebody who's going to talk about how the left left him, somebody, who's going to be like, I just want to get a beer together. I just want us to collaborate together, and not anybody who's going to actually legitimately antagonize Dr. Phil for his beliefs, not anybody who's going to really want to dig into their differences. But by and large, they're going to want to just, jerk each other off and talk about how, the common sense middle is really where the country needs to be. You know what I mean? Old people shit. I have to imagine that at this stage in his life, Dr. Phil is really horny for that kind of a thing.
I guess.
I think Cenk Uygur is just one of the few people with a big reputation of being on the left for a long time. And he was on MSNBC. Maybe Dr. Phil was familiar with him from back then. Who knows if they had like weird paths crossing or if they just kind of organically recently developed their friendship. But I imagine it's this, idea that they're somehow uniting America because one of them, I also felt like the left left me, but I could have been a Democrat too, if we'd just been Harry Truman style Democrats or whatever the hell he would say. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I think Dr. Phil definitely is trying to be more relevant in politics. That's obvious. I almost kind of see his grand vision, trying to become like an American Piers Morgan or something. I could kind of see the talents of Dr. Phil going towards a panel show production like that. Because if you guys have never seen Dr. Phil's original show, like the show he got famous for, he might still do it. I don't know. But the guy is a pretty masterful stirrer of the pot. He really knows how to get a reaction out of people, all while pretending to be the guy who's actually above it all and the most mature or the most, wise, which is completely a performance, obviously. But it kind of reminds me of Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan gets to sit there and be, oh, I'm so above this all, and I'm going to scold you when you yell and get emotional. But also, I'm clearly trying to get that reaction out of you at the same time, and I'm like prodding you and provoking you constantly. So it's weird to me so far that Dr. Phil has made the choices he has as a political commentator, as a political figure, because I don't really see his actual talents as a broadcaster on display yet. If he wants to be successful, that's honestly what I'd recommend he lean into more.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a great point, and I hadn't really considered it, but he really is kind of like an American cowboy Piers Morgan. He does understand what sells, and that's drama. That's the salacious shit. He's never considered himself above it. He's always been willing to do those crazy interviews. We brought up the other day the fact that lady that I went to high school with, and did she or didn't she kill her boyfriend? I don't think she did, but Dr. Phil was certainly willing to have the kid's mom on to hash it out and smear this woman and talk about how she pushed him down the stairs and she killed him and all this kind of stuff, right? And that very much is Piers Morgan coded. So I think he does probably also see the insane success, just like Cenk, right? We've talked a lot about how Cenk could have eaten Pierce's lunch. Like, he could have carved out that lane and been the host of the crazy debates on the Young Turks, whether it's about is Nora just a smut film that swept the Oscars? Are we going to have intense debates about whatever under the sun? That could have been the Young Turks. I think Dr. Phil thinks that can still be him. So trying to collaborate with Cenk, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I don't know if you saw that whole Piers Morgan episode about Honora, but it's funny. They actually didn't talk too much about the sex work thing. What they really talked about was the idea of Carla Sofia Gascon winning an Oscar, which she did not. But Piers Morgan literally was like theoretically like getting mad at something that didn't even happen. He's like, but what if it had happened? What if this trans woman had won Best Actress? This would be taking awards away from biological women. And I'm like, bro, you're literally getting mad at something that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
Yeah, that is the entire right-wing political culture war movement, right? It's inventing things to get angry about because the things that they have around them that they actually should be angry about were done by Republicans. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, Pierce doesn't want to get all worked up about the tariffs, right? Does Pierce want to get all worked up about how, the Epstein files didn't get released? Does he want to get all worked up about how free speech is over in this country now and how Donald Trump is willing to crack down on college campuses and completely abandon any principle of free speech? I remember when people were telling us that RFK was like really good on free speech, and that's why they were going to support him, even though he was a Zionist or even though he was deranged on the vaccine and all these things. And I was like, no, dude, he doesn't believe in anything. And it's so obvious his last name's Kennedy being borne out right now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Anyway, I don't really understand what the point of this continued collab between TYT and Dr. Phil is. It seems, I don't know. I don't really know who's asking for this. I don't think there's a ton of people in Dr. Phil's audience who are really all that eager to hear whatever bullshit Cenk has to say, and vice versa. I don't know a single person in the Young Turks audience that has any interest in what Dr. Phil has to say. Like, I feel like there are other people that are on the right that honestly would make for a more interesting conversation partner. Like, I don't know, Dave Smith or something. Like, literally anyone other than Dr. Phil. I don't even really know what Dr. Phil believes in other than just like being a right-wing piece of shit. Like, that kind of is a Trump lackey, it doesn't really seem like he has much ability to think for himself or push back on the orthodoxy of his own team in a sophisticated or compelling way. So who knows? I mean, we'll definitely react to this town hall tomorrow, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And see if there's anything interesting or worth checking out from this. But I kind of doubt there will be. It seems like another just example of this collaboration going on longer than it should.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm hoping that there's at least one or two humiliating things that we can mock and lampoon. But we'll see. Fun fact about Dr. Phil, he went to high school like maybe 35 minutes away from where Gavin and I record. I drive past it all the time when I'm going to buy groceries.
Yep.
Anyway.
He's from these parts.
Yep. Which is why I know his Texas accent is totally fake, and I respect him for it. He was like, you know what? I'm just going to put on a 10-gallon hat and call myself Dr. Phil and do a Texas accent, even though I'm from Kansas.
Yep.
And people don't have a Southern accent if they're from Johnson County, Kansas.
No.
The man went to Shawnee Mission, I think, North High School.
Yep. Yup. Good old Dr. Phil. Dr.
Dr.
Phil. It's got to stay relevant somehow in
Yep.
this day and age.
Respect the game, dude.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he didn't quite make it into the cabinet like his friend Dr. Oz, which I guess makes this even more humiliating. He's just fucking talking to Cenk.